I am really excited to get into the discussion we're about to have about not drinking today. How are you feeling?
I'm excited to talk about it too, because I feel like this is a subject that has been getting a lot of hype. I guess I'm seeing more people talk about it on digital platforms. And I know it's something that both you and I have committed to, kind of unbeknownst to one another. We just kind of fell into this idea of like, what if we go sober? What if we don't drink? And I feel like it's become now part of our lifestyle. So yeah, I'm excited to talk to you about not drinking.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't call myself sober because I still connect with cannabis and I sat with plant medicine in February. I'll be sitting again in July. And I didn't work any program, just decided to stop drinking. But it was a very long process for me to get to this place. And I think sometimes maybe when you're listening to people or when I've listened to people in the past talk about it, it's kind of skipping that maybe there was a bunch of steps to getting there.
Of
Like,
course.
yeah,
Yeah.
like for me, this journey actually started 4 years ago. About I got the hit to stop drinking. And at the time, I wasn't ready to. It was not on my radar and I didn't want to. And I was just, nope, that's a no. And I remember wondering, like, I don't know if that's something I could ever do. And I don't know if that's for me. And then fast forward maybe 2.5 years later, for the past, yeah, year and a half before I stop drinking, which would be on Christmas actually in December, I remembered the hit still coming in to stop drinking and deciding to become aware of when I was drinking because I wanted to
Mhm.
versus other people were drinking or I'm on vacation and I'm just around other people. So I'm going to drink. Not that anybody's pressuring me to drink, but in my own mind, just feeling like I want to drink. And I will say, I think I got to that point in between like a hard no and let me just observe how I'm interacting with alcohol and why I'm interacting with alcohol. I had gone through an awakening process, a process of building trust in myself from like starting to journal, starting to meditate every day, starting to exercise, changing what I was eating. All of these like incremental changes had been going on to the point where I'd worked up enough self trust and understanding and clarity where I even got to the point where I was ready to observe how I was interacting with alcohol. So,
Mhm.
yeah, so there was a while in between there until the point in December when I decided to just stop drinking completely. And even then, I wasn't ready to commit fully to it. I was in a headspace and telling people, like, I have decided to stop drinking. I don't know how long this is going to be, but I just know for now it's not resonating. To
Mhm.
then feeling like after, I don't know, maybe 2 months in, I was like, oh, this feels really good. Not only physically, and I was experiencing really clear intuitive hits, and it just felt really good in my body, but it also felt like, oh, it was empowering because I felt like I could really trust myself and that trusting my intuition was dead on and that I was able to do it without feeling like I was missing out or like I wanted to drink. I just wasn't sure how it was going to look. To now I'm like completely open to whatever the future holds for me. Like I don't know if it holds drinking or if it doesn't hold drinking, but at this point in time, I can say I feel so good not drinking. I don't foresee there being a future where I drink, but also I don't know.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I love that I mean, of course, we had what's kind of led us up to this point was like a series of events that have been happening in our lives that kind of brought us to the decision to abstain. I will say that I have had a drink or two in between, but it's very few and far between. And I did go a full 3 months of no alcohol, which was, well, I'll start with I was working with a nutritionist, and for me, it was a lot of hormonal reasons, but also there were some spiritual sides to it. I mean, I didn't like waking up feeling foggy. I liked feeling clear. There are other things like that were working in tandem, but one of the things that had led me up to not drinking was I had done a 40-day meditation. It was, or a daily meditation. It was Gabby Bernstein's 40 Days of Miracles. And through that, I committed to 40 days of doing her morning meditation with the journaling. And I think it was the first time that I committed to something for that period of time. And then right around, I guess it was like the first of this year, I came to terms with it like, okay, I can do this. I am not like, I don't need alcohol to make me feel a certain way. And a lot of it was just this mental like push and pull with myself. Like, will people think that I'm not cool enough, or will I not be able to like fully be myself in conversation? Or am I going to be the Debbie Downer at the party or what have you? But all in all, I decided to completely abstain. And it truly was like one of the better things I've done in my life, like truly. And like I said, I have had an occasional drink. I was at a wedding in Australia, so we were at a vineyard, and I think it was the manner in which I partook. It felt right. It didn't feel like I was drinking to numb. It didn't feel like I was. And I'm prefacing like I didn't really have a drinking problem, but for me, I guess it's just the intent with which I'm choosing to drink when I do or if I do. But yeah, a lot of that was for me, it was just such a mental block for me, not feeling like, and I didn't even know why, you know what I mean? Like, really, I guess when I would go out and I would, um, be sitting at a bar or whatever, and I would tell everyone like, hey, I'm not drinking tonight. I'd kind of like set the tone. But all in all, I realized like, I don't really need to even say that. It doesn't really matter what's in my cup. It could be anything. It's all with what the intention or how I want to present myself in the situation. It's like I could either be like, oh, I'm not drinking, so I'm just going to sit and not talk, when I'm totally capable of talking with or without alcohol. It's just really interesting. I think this journey has been incredibly expansive for me, and just learning more about myself, learning to trust myself, and learning to just be myself in general without feeling that I need this liquid substance to like make me feel better or make me seem cooler, or I don't even know. It's really funny how we put so much into like the whole thought of drinking, of partaking in alcohol. It's weird. I'm still toying with all that.
Well, even though we're abstaining from something, we are pushing our own boundaries. So it is uncomfortable, and I think the hardest part for me to kind of wrap my head around was going to be the social aspect. That's the part that I definitely like dimmed down for as much as possible by making sure that I was telling people when I first wanted to stop drinking that I don't know, how long this is going to be. I'm just going to dip my toe in the water.
Right.
And yeah, and feeling un well, let me flip the script. Like I've been the one when somebody else wasn't drinking, being like, you're not drinking. What a bummer. Like,
I've been there too,
how
100%.
are we
Like, come
gonna,
on, you can just have one. Like, I've
yeah,
been that
how are we
person.
gonna relate? Like, this is, oh, you're not drinking. I don't, we've been so socially indoctrinated to thinking that there's something wrong with somebody who doesn't drink,
Right.
or they're a bad, like you were saying, like they're a bad time, they're a Debbie Downer, they, it's not going to be
What's
any
wrong with
fun.
them? They can't handle their
Yeah,
alcohol. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We
yeah,
put so much
like,
judgment.
yeah, yeah, exactly. To being like really having confidence in, I don't need that to relate. I don't need this androgynous substance. It's okay that it makes me feel like shit. And I don't feel good when I do it. It's not worth it to me to do it. And I like going to bed early and I like waking up early. And
Hmm.
that's something that I'm prioritizing in my life that is more important to me than having a couple of drinks.
Totally. And the one thing that I had to get, well, that I've come to realization is it's only for a couple of hours. Like as I was, the nights when I'm like, ooh, this is going to be hard. Okay, well, let me back up a little bit. So at the time when I chose to abstain, there were lots of big things coming up for me, like socially. And I would go in like mentally preparing myself, like I'm not drinking, or oh, we have to go to this concert, we're going to go to this show and everyone's going to be drinking and I have to really set the tone. But if you think about it, it's only just a couple of hours, really. It's not even that long of a time, but I would put so much pressure on myself to make sure that I
Fit
would put
in.
so much pressure on myself to like make it a point to like not, I don't know, I would put so much pressure on myself not to like to do everything but have a drink. It's kind of weird. Maybe I'm just not articulating this very well. But at the end of the day, I just realized like it's just such a small amount of time. And the upside is that I get to go home, I get to have a really solid, nice night's sleep. And like you said, I mean, I get to wake up in the morning and feel really good and start my day and feel clear. And yeah, I feel great. Whereas I don't know how my friends are doing, you know, um, as a result of that. But yeah, it is just so interesting, like how we've been so conditioned to think less of somebody for not putting poison into their bodies, truly, because
Yeah.
alcohol really is, I mean, I mean, that's a whole other episode too. It's health wise, it's just not great for our body. The things that I've learned as I've been on my hormonal repair journey, like it truly is not good for our bodies. Um, but yet at the same time, it's something that we use to like celebrate things, or we use it to, toast like a good job or a high five or whatever. We like it's so interesting how we in the way that we like treat alcohol.
Yeah, I think it's Andrew Huberman that said on his podcast that alcohol is the only drug that if somebody doesn't do it, we wonder what's wrong with them. When
Mm-hmm.
in reality, it's this androgynous substance that is used to basically numb you out and dull
Mm-hmm.
you down and keep you programmed on many different levels. And it's like, yep, just drink it away, even though it causes all kinds of heart disease, not to mention like accidents. And it it's maybe just not treated with the kind of care and understanding and realistic, what's the word, not looked at realistically. Like
Mm-hmm.
science, like if you buy a pack of cigarettes, there has to be a warning label on the
Right,
pack.
right.
It's like alcohol, everybody just talks about like,
It's just a social norm. It's like
yeah,
it's just
losing their
yeah.
inhibitions with it and having a good time and being so free and fun, but it's not coming with the warning label of all the stuff, the negatives that come with it. Not to mention, then you start, I know I have putting being able to feel those feelings of freedom and inhibition in a glass, and not something that you're working on evolving in your own being. So then you have this what's the word I'm looking for, you're dependent on
Mhm.
something, feel
Yeah.
something else when that's not the reality of the situation. It just keeps you marketing and social norms just keep you thinking that you need this to get this. And when in reality, you don't need anything outside of you to feel any way. It's something that you practice on your own.
Hmm.
That maybe you don't get in one take, but is evolved over time. And that could be something too where we don't have the patience or want to feel maybe harder things to get us to a place where we feel comfortable in those type of situations or able to be more authentic, which is obviously hard to be open and authentic. Whereas if you're drinking, you can blame it on your drinking, or you can just not be in your head
Hmm.
about being yourself more.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you lose that true connection to yourself.
Mm.
I went to a party. Again, there's always a party or something. There's always a gathering. I went to a birthday party. I think it was in February. And of course, people are drinking. And I showed up with my non-alcoholic option. I mean, there's a lot of great options out there, I will say now. Like if you really need to have something that like mimics, the real thing, there's so many great options out there. Anyways, I brought my bottle and actually ended up not even drinking it. I ended up drinking a soda water, and there was dancing, and I hit the dance floor and I was like, I'm gonna just show up as me. Like, who's Heather without the alcohol? Like, I don't need this to make me feel wild and loose. And I ended up dancing the whole night and was like getting down, and my moves were still the same. They didn't change because I didn't have alcohol. Like, I felt really good. And I felt so free, and I was like me. I was myself to the purest sense, like around a bunch of strangers, just feeling the music. And I felt really empowered in that moment, and was like, okay, I can do this. Like, I have this in me to not to not have a drink, like I don't have to have this thing in this glass to make me feel like better about myself, or to be able to like have a good time. Like, I have all of that within me. And I love having that feeling. It is such an empowering feeling to know that you have control over what you put in your body.
Yeah. Yes, that trust in yourself. And then there's an alignment in your head and your heart and your body's like, I can trust you.
Mm-hmm.
Things gonna be okay. Like, okay, let's roll with this. I'm feeling stronger. I'm feeling more empowered.
Mm-hmm.
I had a similar situation, like maybe it was in February. I went to a party and I wasn't drinking, obviously. So I kind of thought, I wonder what time I'll leave. I wonder what this is going to look like. And I ended up dancing my ass off till 1 a.m., which is totally surprised me too. I'm like, oh, okay, I don't have to be drinking to want to be out and hang out and dance with some friends and just socialize. And it was all good. And there was definitely a point where people get a little drunker where I'm like, I'm glad that's not me. That's not
Right.
me. It feels really good that that's not me. And even though I stayed up way later than I normally do tonight, uh,
Mm-hmm.
it it just still feels really good that I wasn't even tempted, and it was a lot more empowering than I thought.
Totally. Well, I felt too like said, maybe I didn't articulate as much or as well earlier. Like, it was just me projecting that, like, oh, people are going to think that I'm like not cool, or people are going to judge me because I'm not drinking wine, or I'm not having the martini, or I'm not having this. Like, that was all just in my head, like, truly. And that's some of the biggest, that's, I think, is one of the biggest hurdles, is like understanding that they don't, at the end of the day, they don't really care. I mean, they may say something like, oh, and if the people that do say something and really have a problem with it, you should probably question whether or not, that's the right type of friendship for you. But anyone that, loves you and supports you would truly be like, okay, great, that's fine. So again, it's like getting past that moment of like feeling like you'll be judged because you're not drinking with your friends. But once you get past that point, it's like, wow, this is cool. Like I can do anything. I really feel like um you're in control of whatever you want to do. It's it's been really profound for me, I will say, the last couple months. Have you
Yeah.
had anything to drink at all in the last couple months? Not a drop. Good for you.
No, I'm not even for me and
Yeah.
where I'm at, it just doesn't call to me. When I can think about it, I've been giving away the alcohol that I do have because
Hmm.
I had, a couple bottles of wine. I have some hard alcohol. So when I can think about that, I'm seeing somebody that drinks, I've been giving it away because the energetics of it, even being around me,
Hmm.
I'm not into. And I recently went on a date with somebody and it wasn't like he had a glass of sake and no big deal, but I am even questioning if I want to date somebody that drinks at all. Um,
Yeah, yeah, that's so interesting about dating because I haven't really thought about that. Yeah, how yeah, there's a lot to think about there. Wow, like how would you go about, would you ask first or would you put that in a dating profile? Like how would you?
it is in my profile that
It is.
I don't drink.
Uh-huh.
I don't know at this point if it's something that I would completely not even give somebody opportunity to get to know based on, unless they were a heavy or
Oh, I
heavy
lost
partier or
connection.
something like that. That's definitely not aligned with me. I can hear
Mhm.
you. Can you hear me?
You paused for just a minute. You froze.
Mm, it might be my
Mm.
Wi-Fi. I was saying I don't know that I would never that I would that I would screen somebody based on drinking. At this point, it's not
Uh-huh.
necessarily a hard no for me to get to know somebody that does drink, but I'm kind of navigating how I feel about that now because being healthy and taking care of yourself is something that is important to me in
Yes.
general. Eating healthy and exercising and getting outdoors and that kind of stuff is very important. And I have met a lot of people who barely drink or don't drink. And through this and talking about it, I think I've actually inspired other people to drink less. And
Yeah, I was going to say that. I think a lot of the friend circles I've been in, like when I tell people like, "Oh, I'm not drinking," they're like, "Oh, that's funny. I've actually been cutting back too." And you're like, "Awesome." I feel like there's a bigger movement around that whole kind of sober curious.
yeah, totally. Yeah, it wasn't until I started putting it out there that other people started confiding in me how they actually felt about drinking or when they drink and how they wanted to drink less. And in the subsequent times that I've seen them afterwards telling me about how they've been drinking less or cutting back or just being more cognizant uh,
Hmm.
of their intention and when they're drinking, like we talked about too, which even just that was the impetus for me to really cut it off. Because when I started paying attention to it, I noticed that I never drank because I wanted to. I drank because I was going out or to completely numb out, or I was on vacation. And even when I was on vacation, and like I went away for 2 weeks last year, I was in Europe and it got to a point where I drank every night and I was like, oh my God, I can't drink anymore. And then I still would drink that night. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
what am I doing? I'm not even listening to myself. This doesn't even feel good. It's not even fun. I'm so filled with food and alcohol. It doesn't feel good to drink anymore, but I
Yeah.
felt like drinking. And I was like, okay.
No, that's such a good point. I think a lot of drinking for me too was just because I was there, not because I genuinely wanted to have a drink. Like, I mean, yeah, there might have been some times where I'm like, oh, I need to like relax, but I'm like, I can do other things to relax. I don't need to have a glass of wine to unwind.
Yeah.
There's so many other things that you can do. But yeah, I think a lot of that for me as well was like, I mean, even on my vacation, I did have like a glass of wine that's like, oh, do we want another drink? And I'm like, do I? No, I don't think I do actually. I did for the toast. I did, a little bit at dinner, but I really didn't drink that much at all. And even like we stayed in an Airbnb with a bunch of friends and everyone was up late having a time and I drank water. And again, I danced and I had a great time and I didn't need to be inebriated to be myself and have fun.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's getting to that point with yourself where you're like, I'm more important, and building this relationship with like my body and my spirit, and trusting in that is more important than externally or
Mhm.
anybody around you. And I mean, you have a husband who drinks. Like, I'm not partnered with somebody who drinks, and that's added, I'm sure, or actually, I'm not sure because I don't know, but it seems like it could possibly be added pressure to being around alcohol and somebody else who's drinking.
Yeah, I was going to touch on that a little bit. I mean, he does drink. Have had many a conversation about that. I think because I'm not drinking, it's not that I'm like, oh, you need to, jump on my train right now, but it definitely makes me more aware of how it affects the body, how it affects just even him. Not that he's like this drunk or anything by any means, but I'm super aware of I'm just super aware of how it affects our body. I'll leave it at that. But yeah, I had to get through that pressure, because at first he'd say, oh, it's just one. And I'm like, yeah, but one nowadays makes me feel terrible the next day. Like I'm not on my A game and I have a lot of goals and things that I want to get after. And this to me is just a little bit of a roadblock. It's just something I don't want to, it doesn't really have any, this doesn't really have any, like, I don't really have a need to have this in my life right now. And I think it's also trickling into just make other decisions that I'm making, like the food that I'm eating. Yeah, like I'm not even really that big of a snacker anymore. Um, yeah, I'm the things that I'm choosing to put into my body have like even I've like up leveled in that sense as well. Like just things like, oh, I don't know if I really need to have um I don't know, whatever it is. Like I've really reassessed my diet as well. I mean, working with a nutritionist in tandem, but also just personally, like it's spilling into other areas of my life. And not to mention, like my skin looks good. Like I mean, even when I had the drink, I could tell, like, oh my gosh, you wake up and you're like, you
Dried
can
out.
tell the difference in your face. You truly can. Also being bloated and just not feeling like yourself. There's
It's
just so
interesting.
many benefits to not drinking.
I mean, Huberman did do a 3-hour podcast on alcohol that is fascinating, that if you do drink, you may not want to listen to, because it's some hard truths about what
Oh,
alcohol does
yeah.
to your body. But it's interesting that you mentioned the weight thing and how you're eating, because I've lost about 2 dress sizes and I'm not trying at all. And I definitely didn't drink so much before that was why I've lost weight. And I have always eaten healthy and been cognizant of that and taking care of myself and moved my body, worked out. But for some reason, this has happened in the past, I don't know, I guess since past couple months, I lost a ton of weight, not really trying to at all. That said, I eat healthy and I exercise. It's not like
Hmm.
it just disappeared, but I think I've just been more focused on what I'm putting in my body, checking,
Hmm.
making sure that, there's no seed oils or soy or any kind of shit that they put into food.
Yeah.
They put into fucking everything, which is why I cook so much more for myself now. And I think that is also why, because I'm not eating out as much and I'm very cognizant of what I am eating when I go out.
Hmm. I will
And
say though, by not drinking when you go out to eat, your bill is like so much cheaper.
yeah,
Like it's very significantly cheaper, which my husband likes. I like it too.
yeah, definitely. There's that. Or I go out to friends. I've been going out to dinner with friends that drink. So like we just split it and then maybe
Oh,
they pay for the tip or something,
yeah.
like because I'm always happy to buy my friend a drink too. Like no,
Yeah.
no big deal. But yes, that too. But it's building on your foundation, like you were kind of talking about, because I'm being cognizant of how I feel when I was putting alcohol in my body versus not putting alcohol in my body. And it made me be able to step up my diet regimen more, of being cognizant of like what's in what foods. Am I getting these specific food groups? Am I getting a bunch of different things in my microbiome and mixing up
Mhm.
and eating enough vegetables? And I was able to step up my diet game because of that
Mhm.
too. They fed into one another, and that's led me to a place of feeling even better about myself and in my body and overall just how I'm feeling, which also has added to the trust I've built in myself and the strength that I feel and the empowerment that it's been giving me to be like, this is something I've partaked in for the past couple decades, that I
Mhm.
went from adamantly not wanting to give up to like not maybe thinking about it, but not thinking I could actually give up, to trying to give it up, to being like, oh, fuck yeah, I got this. Like,
Mhm.
I can give this up so easily. So, what else am I, where else am I telling myself that I don't want something that maybe I actually do want, that I maybe don't believe that I can do, but I can do? And so it's like this very empowering feeling of being able to overcome hard shit.
Yeah, of like your personal agency, like you're like I can do this. I know I took a trip, I would travel to Asia for work for 2 weeks and didn't have a sip of alcohol. And my trip was just so different. Um, I had fun. I was able to wake up in the morning and meditate and work out. I was so clear. I wasn't dragging during the day like I might have like I have done in the past, but it felt, yeah, I just felt like I was on top of everything. Like I felt like I was just in control in like in a very calming way, not like stern, rigid, like no, no, no. I mean, it was just the flow was there. I felt at ease. And yeah, I mean, that was a huge milestone for me to be able to travel somewhere with coworkers. And we were taken to bars, nice restaurants, and they all respected, I think after like the first 2 nights, like, they try to say, oh, just one drink, just one drink. I'm like, no, no, I'm really not drinking, it's fine. And after the 2 nights, I mean, it was great. And it was, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like you can do anything. And the ripple effect of just making those choices, like you start to see it start to snowball into other parts of your life, like everything, even now down to career and you name it, partnerships with people.
That's a great point. It's like when you do drink, you lose your faculties. You aren't operating at 100, so you maybe feel anxiety or stressed out, and you're not, and you could possibly, like, I know I would lose the next day possibly if I had 3 drinks. The next day,
Yeah.
all the plans that I had for the next day were like, let me push this off because I don't feel well and I need to just eat and lay around.
I know. You end up getting time back. You truly
Uh-huh.
end up getting time back. And then the things that you can do with that time, it's like can change your life in those moments.
Yeah. Yeah, so I definitely recommend to anybody who's thinking about it, like, start looking at what the next stage of that would be for you and how that could possibly look like for you, because it has been such a beautiful journey to get to this this point, and it was a long one. It's been
Yeah.
about 4 years, which I think people don't maybe express how they get somewhere. And then it seems like it just happened, and like it doesn't take time and a
Hmm.
bunch of steps in between here and there when you're doing something, for me at least, that seemed big and overwhelming and unsure about.
Totally. And I think too that there are so many non-alcoholic options out there. If you still feel like you need, if you're sober curious or you're looking to, omit alcohol from your life, there are great options out there. Like if you literally feel the need to have something in a glass that looks like wine, tastes like wine, but isn't wine or what have you, there's so many great options. We can actually link some in the show notes because I've consumed some of them and it's great. And you don't miss out and you don't get the sugar and you don't get all the after effects of alcohol, but there are options out there for you.
Yeah, my a friend of mine moved to 29 Palms and opened up a little store out there. It's so cute. It's called Scorpion Lollipop, but she has a bunch of non-alcoholic bevies in there, and she
Mm-hmm.
brought me like a grab bag of them because I went with her and a couple of girlfriends to Palm Springs, and I'm not drinking, so and they all do. So she brought me like a grab bag of different ones, and I was like, this is so lovely. This is so much fun. They taste good.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah, it's nice to have like a little bubbly, something refreshing,
totally.
something to like cheers with without the booze.
I know. No, it's so great. Like we're in such a great time, I think, for all of these life-changing moments, that are all there for us. But we'll definitely add them in the show notes because I have a lot of good recommends for sure.
Cool.
Big connoisseur over here.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know that many, but I like Gia.
There's Gia. I went to this perfume making slash aura reading session with my friend, and they were serving this really great non-alcoholic wine. I think it's called number 9 or number 6. I'll have to get that and link it, but delicious. You'd never know. There
Number
was
69.
something like that. It's like it's a number, but it was so delicious. And actually ended up buying a bottle or two, and I don't know why the name is not sticking with me, but I'll definitely link that in the notes. But I hope this conversation inspires you to maybe think about, what you're putting into your body. If you're feeling like you maybe want to make a change, maybe this gives you that motivation that you need.
Yeah, hopefully.
But I will say too, if you do feel the need, I mean, again, it's all with the intention with which what we partake. So
Yeah, that's a great word. Just intention.
yeah,
What is your intention behind it? And if you find like, oh, it really calls to me to have a glass of wine at the end of the day or whatever it is, and I'm not numbing out or whatever. Yeah,
right. Yeah,
intentionality.
100%. All right. Well, thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in 2 weeks.
All right. Bye.
Bye.